No, hello. Are we? Wait, let me see. Are both microphones working properly? This one is okay. This one is. I guess I need to get a little bit closer. Okay. What else? What? Don't tell me that you're going to crash Twitch. 1 second. Please, no. Okay. There we have it. I think I will leave this over here. What? I have food. I have food. I forgot. Give me a second. Why did I have so much food? What the fuck? Okay. What a hard thing it is to not have a mouse. Anyways. I mean, it doesn't even play that much of a role in reality. Oh yeah, Garage Video. What? Anyways. Let me see. This. Let me. Wait. You have background sound? No. Okay. Let me open this. Also, microphone, what? Wait. I think I should try to mute just for a second. Okay. Is it working now? Wait. Is it working now? I never knew it had kind of a dead sound, this microphone. Wow. So I need this. We have one video. The problem is, I would like to have at the very least two. At the very least, just in case. I do not believe we are capable of really going through stuff that fast. But anyways. What the fuck? Theosis. No. Let's see. I mean, what the fuck? What is this? What? 2 hours and almost 40 minutes of video. What? Man. So long since I saw one of those. Well, I think. Okay. I think I have the 2 videos then. I will guess. Not that I think about it. Didn't we have a study lesson part? Study overall. And I forgot to link it properly on the Discord. Let me check. Sources, yeah. Did we have it properly? Wow, I didn't forget. What? Amazing. Let me refresh. Oh, sorry. So wait, I can hear some music in the meanwhile. Okay. I guess almost everything should be in place then, if I am not wrong. So, let me to close this. To copy this first one, to move it over here. Pin, yeah, pin. And well, I guess I will go, or not, I guess I know, I will go get some water, and after that, we're properly starting. Yeah. So, in the meanwhile, do I have to do anything else? I think not, right? I will think so. So, anyways, let me go and do that. Give me a second. What? I didn't pin. What's why is it not pinning the message, my man? Pin? Yeah, no? We can't pin. Bro. Let me check over here. Pin. Can I pin this over here? I can. Okay, fine. Manually unpin. So, there it is. I think with that, we don't have almost anything more to worry ourselves about. Let me hear. Do we have proper audio quality? Are we working? Are we existing as it is necessary? Yeah. It seems we are working fine. So, with that said, I guess we don't really have that much more to add. Let me get the chat over here. Chat. Hello. Twitch. Okay, thank you for not crashing. And well, with that, I guess we're completely fine now. We wait, I kind of know what I forgot to do, but I will do it anyways later, or while I talk. So well, in 3, 2, 1. Boom! Here we are. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome another beautiful day, another beautiful occasion to this, our zone of thinking, our zone of pondering in this case, our zone of mental exertion. A very enjoyable thing and a very notorious thing that we tend to do here. I wouldn't say the most, but rather simply realize with a certain amount of frequency that the rest might as well not perceive as much as we do. So yeah, here we are, once again on this or farm or waterfall or channel or Twitch corner or internet space, doing what we like the most, and that is to discuss, to analyze, to see, to try and perceive anything behind different content that we can find, different, as it is kind of self-explanatory. In this new occasion in which we are going to react to something, it is that we decided to engage with whatever it is that we can find minimally related to our, I will say, to our most, not the best, but simply our most self-serving interest. So yeah, here we are, on another occasion, as I said. As always, thanks for being here, thanks for watching, thanks for giving your time to this. Welcome, everybody, beautiful world watchers, beautiful lurkers. In this case, I think we have the yeah, we should supposedly have the bots, just in case, as I see it's probably happening, as it tends to do later. Yeah, let me get the red message, and with that, I think we can properly change. Ah, wait, what the fuck I am on? Well, I mean, in reality, yeah, it is correct to say that we're just starting, as it is just chatting slash reaction, but I think reactions should go inside the just chatting category, no? I think. So anyways, let us now properly get into this, our place of analysis. I am transition. Okay, I don't know how dense is this particular video going to be. I don't know how much of anything it will have. I only know that it supposedly is, in a sense, very dense, so I wouldn't be surprised to find not that much of a struggle, but simply some interesting stuff to stop ourselves by. But just in case, if it were to not really provide that much for us to see, we might as well take a detour, take some time, yeah, some more time to keep analyzing other stuff that we could potentially find on another video, another much more shorter one, but still interesting video. So yeah, I think with that, do I have anything else to really say? No, I think not. So yeah, with something in my hands to eat on one side, on the other something to drink, I hope everybody is ready. And now let us simply commence with the video observance action. So yeah, the title is Nietzsche, Weakness Corrupts. And the link is the one who is linked, or who is pinned, sorry, in the chat. And yeah, let us simply start.
The popular saying goes, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. The Nietzschean inversion of this popular wisdom is thus: weakness corrupts, and absolute weakness corrupts absolutely. This is the basic idea behind the concept of will to power. It is also a summary of Nietzsche's basic contribution to human psychology. Nietzsche, who wrote that psychology was the route to the most fundamental human questions, is often considered a proto-psychologist. He was heavily influential in the likes of Sigmund Freud and Carl Gustav Jung. For the sake of clarity, I must stress that my formulation above is not a direct quote from the works or notes of Friedrich Nietzsche. It is my own coinage, a simple reversal of the popular moral idiom. As such, we'll now make the case in Nietzsche's own words. In aphorism number 348 of the Dawn, Nietzsche writes, quote, "One should distinguish well. Whoever still wants to gain the consciousness of power will use any means. He, however, who has it, has become very choosy and noble in his tastes." End quote. It is through the want of power, to want is to
Okay. I think we can start with something proper. In this case, with the first, let's say, part of this analysis being what is shown over here. One should distinguish well. Whoever still wants to gain the consciousness of power will use any means. Whoever who has it has become very choosy and noble in his taste. The, the side of this concept, what I see when I try to read this is in a sense where still talking about, or not still, started to take into account that there is a certain obvious case in which, yeah, the case itself being made that there is obviously something important to take into consideration, first and foremost. And after seeing that, we find ourselves with the side of whoever still wants to gain, as in an affirmation that this comes, I will say probably it was extracted from one of those passages in which he was considering if it was worthy or not to try and challenge anything in particular, no? Because a lot of times it simply happens that we find ourselves doing stuff without really noticing what is it that we are doing. So, when one comes to that realization, then in that moment it is that you can decide to go forward or not. And by deciding to go forward, in this case, whoever still wants to gain the consciousness, in this case, obviously, of power, will use any means, referring to the idea that after you realize what is it that you lack, you start to try and do the best of your capabilities to try and gain that particular, I wouldn't say simply benefit, as it boils it down to something less important than what it ends up really being. I mean, in a sense, I don't know. Yeah, I miss from which perspective was this being taken on? Because consciousness of power, I think it refers to the concept itself of which allows you to understand how much you're really capable of doing or not. In that sense, the capacity of observing what is it that you can properly do and what is it that you lack the real capacities and the real power of doing or not. That is the only concept that truly comes to my mind if we are trying to fit into the rest of the description. If you were to ignore the rest, I think you could try to argue that it might as well be referring to the more type of political ideological power that lies on the idea itself of being someone who can, I don't know if directly manipulate, but rather become I think the good word or the best definition is a user of the masses. Somebody who can use the masses for the sake of their objectives, no? And as well as it is the other one. Somebody who decides to use power by rather more particularly, I wouldn't try to say, but more particular type of objectives, not the concept in which you're considering power as something that applies to every type of field of life. But yeah, I don't think it is something bad, I will argue. And I will rather even say the most notorious thing is always to take into account that, yeah, I mean, there is nothing really bad side here. Consciousness of power allows you to, let's say like this, a better or a different description would be also that consciousness of power allows you to see how much you can do for the sake of trying to achieve anything, as it allows you to be, conscious about your capacities over that endeavor in which you decided to embark on. And I will say, because it is like that, whoever who has it, has become very choosy and noble in his taste, because then, in that moment, it is that you realize how much of a power you really have in your hands when trying to act over anything, and even more how much of a real capacity you have over any particular endeavor, in this case, that you're trying to take on. as it signifies that first and foremost, you need to be conscious about which kind of which kind of objective are you going to set for the sake of using your power, and even more, how is it that you're going to do it? Because I will say probably, if I am not wrong, Nietzsche was someone who was constantly talking also about the possibility of doing something on a kind of good manner. If I am not wrong, in this case I am probably, not probably, I am lacking information, sadly. I didn't thought that we were directly going to deal with Nietzsche himself. I mean, you can see it sometimes that a video will contain the direct ideas of someone boiled down. In this case, I was thinking, as it was narrated by someone, that it was going to be a complete breakdown of what he was saying. So, well, let me say it like this. What happens is you realize in which ways you can do the objective that you have set, because almost all the particular the more specific objectives have a lot of different ways to achieve them, and it only lies in the hands of the one who is, let's say, trying to properly set them apart. It only lies in the hands of that particular individual to see how it is that they can do it, because all of the other things, let's say, you have commonly maybe throwing a random number at the least 20 different ways to do almost any type of action, if we consider the most common ones also in this category. And because of that particular reasoning, you also deal or start to deal with the reality that you have to choose in which way you are going to go forward with that particular desire that you have found inside yourself, or being created, whatever, in that desire. And the nobleness is born from the side of you, or if you are really capable of understanding how much your power is, it ends up becoming noble, because in that instance it is that you can more properly start to embark on any journey that the rest might also have a particular interest over watching. As I mean, in a deeper sense, because we are social creatures, you can't not think about the types of actions that you realize. But the most important thing is always to take into consideration that you might as well be subjected to the consequences of your actions if you don't properly take the good path, let's say. So yeah, I mean, that is also what lies behind the concept itself of being conscious about your power, but yeah, I don't know, I don't think it is that negative. So yeah, with that explained, I think we can properly continue. Let's see what it tries to say then.
End quote. It is through the want of power, to want is to lack, that people commit evil deeds. Only the impotent person, Nietzsche writes in the Dawn, 371, quote, wishes to hurt and see signs of suffering, end quote. Oftentimes, people lash out and hurt others simply to gain consciousness of their own power. In Nietzsche's view, true malevolence is actually rather rare. People hurt not for the aim of hurting, but to enjoy the power of hurting. A person who is secure in himself and in his own character would not need to create suffering, because the truly powerful have no need to demonstrate their power.
Yeah, I mean,
to the extent that a powerful person does hurt others, Nietzsche says that he does this, quote, without thinking of it. Quote.
I mean, let's see. Okay. Holy, yeah. I guess yes. This is sadly Nietzsche more than anything else. Yeah. It is basically that the concepts. You don't. If you're deciding to hurt somebody, you really are not doing it because you truly wish to hurt someone. on so many cases it is that you only do it because you want to observe if it is really in your capacities or not, that you might as well not even take it into consideration when you try to speak about your different capacities, let's say, of being negatively, yeah, a negative actor in the life of anybody, as it also becomes of you to be somebody who tries to make sense out of their world. And because of that, the reason is that you also try to engage in actions that end up leading you towards the, in that sense, obviously, the best parts of knowledge and the best parts of, I wouldn't simply say acceptance, rather, simply, yeah, of discovery, I guess. Because by discovering it is that you also realize how much of a possibility you really had about, let's say, dealing with any particular side related to all of these things that are to be empowered and to have also in your hand the possibility of acting in any particular way, even if the one that you decided particularly wasn't the best one. So, with that said, I think we can also kind of progress into the other side, that is to observe in which ways it is that I wouldn't simply say almost directly anybody has to exist to not be, I wouldn't say problematic, but rather to not be entrapped in any, let's say like this, in any particularly annoying enclosure, I will say, of predicaments in which you have to act in a certain way, no? So, I know if we are dealing with Nietzsche, I know I am losing someone in the way. Let me go back a little bit. I mean, yeah, also, yes, okay. By simply seeing the images, I can remember it. Also, it happens that, for example, you have to deal with the knowledge of how much you're really capable of hurting somebody or not, because it doesn't become instantaneously apparent to you how much you really can become an actor in any way if you are not somebody who did it. As even if by examples you were to be told how much of a possibility you had on your hands about any particular situation, even more on a negative type of environment or on a negative type of experiment, we tend to think of ourselves as somebody who doesn't really act that much on completely negative actions. And because of that particular reason, it is that you have to sadly also see, let's say, that you have to somehow find and figure out ways in which you can, I wouldn't simply say, yeah, I wouldn't simply say to deal with any particular negative thing, but rather to try and observe how all the sides that deal with your interest of knowing the reality end up leading you to take such type of actions. So, and I mean, yeah, obviously also what was said here. If you are powerful enough, you have a necessity over showing your capacities to others, as it is true, completely true, that when you know how much of a capacity you have over dealing with any particular situation, you are not obliged to take action because you know how much you can do. If it isn't something truly needing of your force, no? In a sense, okay. In a sense, it happens that you, after experiencing that particular thing, you become aware of much, yeah, of how much you can truly deal with that situation. And if it isn't something that you can properly experience, you suddenly are forced to go through it. I guess, in a sense, in a more deeper manner, it happily happens, or coincidentally happens, let's say, that you can obtain that same amount of information by exploring what others say. No, it doesn't really happen that almost anybody can truly experience what they are trying to deal with as it becomes part of the learning process itself, that at the very least in the normal society in which we live nowadays, you have the capacity of also observing the different examples that are presented to you and the different lessons that you can extract by seeing what has happened to those who have tried those objectives that you particularly are also finding yourself interested in. So I think I am not losing that much more now. And if I am, I have been talking so much. So yeah, yeah. Let us simply continue. I guess.
Truly powerful have no need to demonstrate their power. To the extent that a powerful person does hurt others, Nietzsche says that he does this, quote, without thinking of it, end quote. Power ennobles the mind. Nietzsche thinks a person is actually improved when they are liberated from the trivial concerns and menial tasks. Kaufman gives
What? Wait, what?
Concerns. Nietzsche thinks a person is actually improved when they are liberated from the trivial concerns and menial tasks.
What? 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 Is this guy randomly tying up concepts? What? What? Okay, give me a second. What is this guy talking about, my man?
Have no need to demonstrate their power. To the extent that a powerful person does hurt others, Nietzsche says that he does this, quote, without thinking of it, end quote.
Yeah.
Power ennobles the mind. Nietzsche thinks a person is actually improved when they are liberated from the trivial concerns and menial tasks.
What the fuck is this structure, my man? I mean, I understand what... Yes, it has complete sense, but is it really part of the point to talk about the liberation that comes from not being tied down by so many mundane things? What? I will try to argue I might be not getting really the point here. If it has to deal exactly with what we're talking about, I guess I wouldn't hope so, but rather I will... What the fuck? What? Give me a second. Okay, let me hear this once again. My man, what?
Power ennobles the mind. Nietzsche thinks a person is actually improved when they are liberated from the trivial concerns and menial tasks.
I mean, yes, I can't really add that much, man. It makes complete sense that, yeah, when you find knowledge and when you find even more, when you have the capacity of not having to spend so much time dealing with any particular situation that was rather an anchor in your life, an answer in your life, forcing you to stay in a certain place instead of progressing. It is true, yes. I mean, there is literally nothing that doesn't apply to this, no? But what else is there? I can see how when you try to connect this with what was said before, my man. What? What? Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, the argument might be we're forced to do the bad things somehow. It is completely twisted. It literally has no sense to try and take it from that side, I think. No. Let's simply continue. Yeah. Let's simply continue.
Kaufman gives an example of how a noble-minded person might cause suffering without thinking of it in his book, Nietzsche, Philosopher, Psychologist, Antichrist, page 193. Quote, a good illustration would be Goethe, whose loves Nietzsche probably had to learn by heart, like most other German students. Goethe, as German teachers like to point out, broke Friederike's heart by lavishing his love upon her and then not marrying her. Here is one of the seeds of the Gretchen tragedy. Goethe, however, had no thought of seeing the poor girl suffer. Only the weak need to convince themselves and others of their might by inflicting hurt. The truly powerful are not concerned with others, but act out of a fullness and an overflow. End quote. Nietzsche correlated power with qualities like truthfulness, restraint, and...
I mean... okay, a good... Let me read this once again. I mean, it becomes kind of hard to try and follow what is being said when it is read at one of the slowest rhythms that I have heard in a long time. I mean, yeah, a good illustration would be Goethe, who loves Nietzsche, probably had to learn by heart, like most of the German students. Goethe, as German teachers like to point out, broke Friedrich's heart by lavishing his love upon her, and then not marrying her. Here is one of the seeds of the Gretchen tragedy. Goethe, however, had no thought of seeing the poor girl suffer. Only the weak need to convince themselves and others of their might by inflicting hurt. The truly powerful are not concerned with others, but act out of a fullness and an overflow. Eh? What? Was it always this complicated to try and analyze anything, and I never notice? How do you even dealing with the incorrect kind of thing? Because I mean, for example, here, I can understand what is it that they're talking about, and no real problem. You can truly understand the points. It is clear. No, it isn't clear. There is a kind of problem. Goethe? Who is Goethe in this case? What? I mean, anyways, aside of that, the truly powerful are not concerned with others, but act out of a fullness and an overflow. Okay, I think I can try to take it from this side. Probably, at best. If it is the one that was intended to be analyzed from. Because I will even argue that it isn't. But anyways, let's see it from the perspective of, in this case, Goethe was inflicting pain on Friedrichs as it was part of simply being overwhelmingly good with what they were doing. In this case, being overwhelmingly lovingly? I don't know how to word it. Yeah, give too much love, simply. Give overwhelming amounts of love. Because of that same reason, it is that it was a problem. Because the one who is acting, in this case, with complete happiness in mind, doesn't really realize that their actions also carry a negative side to it, as you are only observing what happens to be born from your full interest, no? And I will even say that is why it is worded like this, like act out of a fullness and an overflow, as in because you already know how much you can truly do, you start to act almost boundlessly, as there is no real limitation behind the amount of action that you can take in any particular case. Not because there literally is no limitation, but rather because it becomes of you to observe and to really become part of the process itself, even in which you become truly aware and end up truly understanding how much you can deal with any particular situation. In this case, also taking it into the side of not only you can deal with any situation, but even more you can do as much as you want, as you truly understand where is it that your capacities end. And until you reach that point, you have no worry about overdoing it. Because the problem is, it doesn't simply happen that you know about one boundary. If it is it that you truly, as it is worded here, you're truly powerful, as in truly somebody who knows how much they can do, but rather because you can observe the whole extent of your capacities, you have no real reason to worry about the amount of actions that you put forward anything. And because of that, it is that you don't find that what you're doing might have a negative impact, as the real threats you already know about of. And you can avoid them. And the other minor ones, I wouldn't even say minor inconveniences, don't even need to be paid attention. So yeah, I guess in that sense, you can see it like that, no? And I mean, obviously also on the other side, because you truly don't understand how much your actions have a consequence, being somebody weak, as in somebody who also lives in blindness, we can try to correlate, it is that you believe, for example, in this case, let's take it from this optic. Gotti was someone who probably was trying to give as much love for some particular reason, let's say to help this particular Frederick person, girl, no? So, because of that same idea, if instead of being somebody capable of doing it, it was love coming from a side of not really even understanding where to start to love anybody, in that moment it is that you have also sadly to deal with the complete, I guess, realization of truly where not even the boundaries, but also the holy, yeah, the holy extent of your capacities is. And if you were, for example, or if this particular Goethe person were trying to give as much love as they can to somebody who they don't even know who to love, the amount of love that they will end up giving isn't going to be one truly intended to do what is created by love, but rather to prove it as much as they can. And in a sense, it is from that perspective that you end up hurting others, as you end up involving too much of yourself in a process that always has a two-side component, I will argue. But I don't see it as something negative or anything bad. I mean, it is part itself of the process to learn about it. I mean, okay, if you are weak and you can realize it, then it is that you obtain the real capacity of progressing on your weakness.
Only the weak need to convince themselves and others of their might by inflicting hurt. The truly powerful are not concerned with others, but act out of a fullness and an overflow. End quote. Nietzsche correlated power with qualities like truthfulness, restraint, and discipline. Power is first and foremost a form of self-mastery, and it was the nobility of past ages who were first educated and brought up through a course of mental discipline. He correlated weakness, meanwhile, with impulsive behavior, resentment, and self-hatred. We should take note that Nietzsche has therefore associated conventionally moral traits with strength and conventionally immoral traits with weakness. There is an argument to be made that he's doing this intentionally, as an attack on the Christian morality. Christianity idealizes martyrdom, claims, "Blessed are the poor in spirit," and "the meek shall inherit the earth." One aspect of the Nietzschean critique of Christianity is that the Christian appraisal of weakness is backward. That said, Nietzsche is not out to define power as good because it leads to conventionally good traits of character. On the contrary, Nietzsche is revealing to us that the conditions we think lead to our ideas of goodness are often flawed and tautological. While we think that suffering is good for the soul, or that humility brings character, Nietzsche writes, on the contrary, in The Dawn, number 571, quote, "Medical kit of the soul. What is the strongest healing application? Victory." End quote. Kaufman's commentary on this passage is as follows, quote, "This is not a doctor's prescription, as it were, but an improvisation from a medical kit, filled apotheke. It is the strongest medicine, and thus it is dangerous and not to be prescribed generally." End quote. This is because, as Nietzsche writes in Human All Too Human, number 444, quote, "War makes the vanquished malicious." End quote.
Okay. I understand the but, and there was a certain problem that has to deal more with the whole character of Nietzsche himself, and that is, he decided too much sometimes to distinguish and to differentiate between religion and the rest of the world, let's say, because one of the few concepts that gets applied to religion or that can get extracted from it is what is established as a morally good concept most of the time is things that are already, not that had been almost in the beginning of our consciousness observed as good traits and observed as things that serve a real purpose, something that ends up giving you the possibility of progressing towards your life, while those things that are trying to be marked as negative are those that also are contained in the whole archive of knowledge that anybody can almost refer themselves to when they are interested in seeing, okay, and if I do not properly take this particular path, which kinds of problem I am going to find myself in? That is why they are defined as good and as bad. In another sense, it also happens that the Shast, or who was it that it was defined? I guess, yeah, I will guess we probably need to see it. Give me a second. It was so Hello? I think it was over here that it was said.
On the contrary, Nietzsche is good because it leads to conventionally good traits of character. That said, Nietzsche is not out to define power as good because it leads to conventionally good traits of character.
Okay, here.
On the contrary, to define power as good because
power isn't defined as something that defines good traits of character, as in those who are weak do not have flaws on their character. It simply happens that they haven't developed properly, let's say, yet are you. And in an even deeper sense, it also transpires that the knowledge that tries to be contained in the majority of the stories also deals with that particular attempt at guiding whoever finds it. Because in a sense, most of the literary work, if not intended, to that end up at some point or another accepting the necessity of a message behind it. Because without a message, there is almost no way of entertaining anybody. Unless you were capable of finding something completely strange to everybody, in a sense that literally whoever watches that which you are doing can say, okay, this is interesting because it is unknown to me, unless it is from that side of the story. The things that you do are interesting because they carry a certain type of message. In this case, in this type of media, and in this type of medium also. So yes, I don't know, I think, yeah, the problem is this video isn't a really that much of an original work, my man. There is a kind of certain reason as to why I don't deal with Nietzsche. It is not simply too complicated. It is hard to really try and keep attacking, as you need to have too many things in your mind at all times when arguing against it. So yeah,
it leads to conventionally good traits of character. On the contrary, Nietzsche is revealing to us that the conditions we think lead to our ideas of goodness are often flawed and tautological. While we think that suffering is good for the soul, or that humility brings character, Nietzsche writes, on the contrary, in The Dawn, number 571, quote, medical kit of...
Okay, yes. I can... Okay. Yes, I think we can hear all of this.
What is the strongest healing application?
Where we left.
Victory. End quote.
Not only what is said here, but what is said also later, on the concept or on the side of...
Quote, war makes the vanquished malicious. End quote.
On the side, having humility makes you be constantly defeating that inner desire of arguing against others how much of a capable thing you are, on whichever field it is that you have capacities. And I understand it on the side also of ourselves having to find, let's say, the reality of the most or the biggest of the problems being that when you try to be, or when you try to always procure humility in your life, let's say like that, you have to constantly negate yourself the possibility of being truly acknowledging of your capacities. And in that sense, it is that you also sadly end up developing into someone poisonous because you are dealing, and even more, you are imposing to yourself the necessity of not taking these kind of challenges positively, but rather observing every single thing as something that requires you to stay almost silent. Because I wouldn't simply say you have no obligation, but rather you end up not allowing yourself, I will guess, to experience the real demonstration of abilities that you could try to go for, let's say. But
the danger Kaufman mentions is that war also makes the victor stupid, as Nietzsche says in that same passage. A discussion of Nietzsche's views on war would be beyond the scope of this article. Nevertheless, the relation of these observations to our central point should be clear. When people are dominated and oppressed, they are not made better on this account. They are made worse. Nietzsche's principal work concerning this idea is on the genealogy of morality. The morality of weakness, or the slave morality as Nietzsche here calls it, both cultivates resentment and is driven by resentment. Nietzsche uses the French term ressentiment, which has the same meaning as the English word resentment. In that work, resentment is identified as a psychological poison. It is characterized by the desire for revenge, which sometimes takes the form of a mere imagination of vengeance, especially in religion. The resentful person does harm, causes suffering. Sometimes he does damage to society and culture. The tragic part is that this is all to no benefit. The resentful person destroys for an imagined benefit, the idea of justice, in the sense of, quote, getting even. Accordingly, Nietzsche says that resentment-based morality is fundamentally outer-directed. This type of morality is defined by the enemy, the other, the threat. This is in contrast to the morality of the powerful who are inner-directed. Nietzsche writes in Genealogy of Morality,
I have been keeping myself from saying it, as I think it is kind of an insult to argue anything like that with whoever makes any type of content. But what is the point of this? Is this focusing on the religion side? Is this focusing on the personality side? What is this focusing on, my man? I understand that you try to cite Nietzsche, no? It is completely understandable. But it doesn't really make your message more understandable simply because you do it like that. You need to have an objective behind talking about anything. In this case, I am trying to navigate in completely unclear waters, in misty waters it feels. There is no way in which what tries to be talked about here can truly be, or can simply be processed, I guess. But I don't know. So far, I mean, yeah. Because going back into what was being said, for example, it happens that truly, in some cases, some types of the relations end up falling into the predicament of negating too much on the side of individuals, their capacities, and therefore not allowing anybody to really get to their places to which they could have found themselves in if they had been allowed to really take this journey as it was simply presented. But rather, even more in these type of occasions, these types of religions and these types of social constructs, I would say, because even in some types of organizations, non-religious nowadays, you can find the amount of negation that is done to everybody. It is that resentment is cultivated, yes. And I mean, yeah, you can truly argue anything more. It truly resentment is something that simply wants to get things equal along the play field. Because even if it isn't done maliciously, and you decide that your resentment isn't truly one born from a side of pure hatred, even if you're trying to correct somebody from a side of resentment to show them that they can become better, you are still trying to even things out. The one who's truly forgiven doesn't have the real capacity of understanding in which ways they have to try and play a game in which everybody can keep winning, let's say. Because, in a sense, I will argue if we are talking about society in general, you can say that obviously you wish for everybody to keep playing. Even if, I mean, unless we are dealing with somebody who is truly corrupted to its core, think that is mathematically impossible, almost, or statistically impossible, sorry, you have no possibility of really finding somebody who is incredibly full of hatred on their lives. The rest can be helped in their ways. And if you try to not do so, you're going to get destroyed. Not because in some cases it also happens that they want to simply destroy you, but rather because they, after a certain point, they start to also realize that they might as well push more than what they should try to do so, as you are giving them the capacity of doing so, and you're not truly opposing any force against their actions. But yeah, I mean, let's see.
Part 1, Aphorism 10, quote, "The beginning of the slaves' revolt in morality occurs when ressentiment itself turns creative and gives birth to values. The ressentiment of those beings who, denied the proper response of action, compensate for it only with imaginary revenge. Whereas all noble morality grows out of a triumphant saying yes to itself, slave morality says no, on principle, to everything that is outside, other, non-self, and this no is its creative deed. This reversal of the evaluating glance, this essential orientation to the outside instead of back onto itself, is a feature of ressentiment. In order to come about, slave morality first has to have an opposing external world. It needs, physiologically speaking, external stimuli in order to act at all. Its action is basically a reaction. The opposite is the case with the noble method of valuation. This acts and grows spontaneously, seeking out its opposite only so that it can say yes to itself even more thankfully and exultantly. Its negative concept, low, common, bad, is only a pale contrast created after the event compared to its positive basic concept, saturated with life and passion. We, the noble, the good, the beautiful, and the happy. End quote. What are the implications here? Well, first of all, that the ability to be concerned with yourself alone is a privilege of the powerful. Secondly, the desire to cause suffering in others, cruelty, arises as a condition of weakness. Nietzsche says that love of one's enemy, a Christian virtue, is really only possible among the powerful and or noble. The meek shepherd does not really have access to the ability to love one's enemy. This is why such a concept becomes so mysterious, divine, and sacred to him, because it is so contrary to his nature. The true nature of the weak is to be vindictive and unproductive, in Nietzsche's view. They experience self-hatred and engage with the world on the basis of that hatred, because they find their power is lacking. We can therefore reject the characterization of Nietzsche's will to power as merely validating the actions of the powerful. There are definite signs of a nobly minded person. Nietzsche describes the virtues of such a person in one passage in Genealogy, Book 2, Aphorism 10. Quote,
Okay, shut up, my man. I mean, yeah, taking the rest of what we have been talking about into consideration and even more trying to carry it with what is being talked about here, truly is incredibly hard to try and forgive everyone, because in a sense, somehow you have to accept everything that has that has happened, to truly have the possibility of saying that you forgave, no matter who it was. In a sense, you don't even have the possibility of forgiving those who you try to not to live with, let's say. If you decide that by forgiving somebody, you are going to completely ignore them, in reality you are still not forgiving anybody, as you simply decided to take a shorter route towards the path of not having to deal with that person anymore without really solving the problem itself that happened. Before truly getting to solve it, because obviously there are some cases in which complete removal of the roots of any problem is necessary. But going back to what we were talking about also, the destruction of these kind of things is statistically so low, it might as well not happen in the majority of our encounters in life. We might as well have to completely depart only from one or two things. And well, I mean, they don't really have to deal with that, but for example, having to part with something that is hurtful to you is part of learning why it is hurtful. But yeah, I don't know. What else is trying to be said here? I mean, for example, the theory itself is obviously containing something so incredibly complex for everybody to apply on their lives is kind of counterproductive. But the ways in which it is presented, that idea, also give us ways to try and apply it in our particular life. Not everybody has the capacity of doing so, and even less, not everybody has the chance of trying to talk about it, because they wouldn't say that they were truly capable of extracting all that was found on it. So yeah, I mean, understandable thoughts, but I mean, yeah, aside from that, the rest is understandable. I mean, kind of hard to contradict a concept that was purely given, or a pure concept, more like. So yeah, I mean, let's simply see what more is there. Also, what the fuck is this thing?
It is not unthinkable that a society might attain such a consciousness of power that it could allow itself the noblest luxury possible to it, letting those who harm it go unpunished. What are my parasites to me, it might say. May they live and prosper. I am strong enough for that. This self-overcoming of justice, one knows the beautiful name it has given itself, mercy. End quote. While it is hardly a flattering view of the underclass to designate them as parasites, Nietzsche believes that the parasitical relation between the great people and the masses is natural. It is even a sign of how powerful someone actually is, as he reiterates in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Book 1, Chapter 19. Quote, "What is the highest of all species of being, and what is the lowest? The parasite is the lowest species. He, however, who is of the highest species feedeth most parasites. For the soul which hath the longest ladder, and can go deepest down, how could one there fail to be most parasites on it?"
I mean, okay, Yeah, we have 2 minutes, or well, 1 minute and a half to keep seeing.
This is not to say
Let's
that the
finish
weak
this
don't have
first.
their own ideas of compassion and mercy. Just as Nietzsche says that the strong have a different type of justice from the weak, and that these two types of justice are two radically different concepts confounded under a single label. In Human All Too Human, number 451. Similarly, the strong have their own kind of compassion. In Nietzsche's view, it is a more authentic compassion. It is only the powerful person who has any choice in whether they act with mercy or cruelty, since the powerful are those who have the ability to requite. It is when someone hurts you and you find you are stifled or unable to repay them for it that you begin to feel resentment. Eventually, such a person becomes cruel by nature, just like a beaten dog becomes mean by nature. This is the real danger of the poison of resentment. The later acquisition of power doesn't necessarily undo the damage that has already been done to the psyche. Weakness has already corrupted them. If you enjoyed the Nietzsche podcast,
Okay, man. Yeah, we can take it over here. I fucking hated that video. I mean, yeah. In a sense, it is understandable the final point that was presented, but I might argue how it is worded is unnecessary, because the concept itself can also be extrapolated into something like this. For any real society to have the possibility of progressing, you need to have people who is struggling on one side and on the other. You need to have people who is truly trying their best. And while they are trying their best, they also need to have problems. Because of those problems can also be solved by those who are doing and dealing with the best kind of things, and can be also, let's say, solved by the different rewards that they reap, those who are on the highest echelons of society. It is necessary for the society to learn the necessity of those who are on the highest ladder to give back something to those who are on the lowest ends of it. But it doesn't really represent that it is a negative thing. Rather, it is a normal process for everybody to see it as that, because it is also in that moment that you see really how much of a necessity you have over something. And for example, in this case, let's apply it like this. The concept itself of understanding that you really don't need so much might as well be something hurtful, but the capacity for forgiving that particularly negative experience also is part of going through and, let's say, decompressing all the things that are behind sometimes a really unnecessary concept like I need millions of dollars to be happy, when in reality not that many people, or well, not that many people, no, sorry, nobody really has that much of a necessity about money like that. Rather, they only need an X amount, and the rest ends up being utilized on rather meaningless things. I guess, I wouldn't simply guess. The final objective, or in the final analysis, the objective is to see and to give to others the capacity of seeing it like that. And whatever means are needed for this, they should try to be shown proofs of this, as it is an incredibly good thing to have those who can give so much to those who have nothing, as it is part of this process in which we live in our societies, to finally find it real, that by allowing others to interact with whoever else it is that they see, without any boundaries and without even less thinking something negative about the different interactions that they have with those who are on the lesser field, let's say, by doing that, it is that you can also accept the happiness that gets created from constantly letting everyone be part of this process, I think. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but I don't know, my man. I think the first half of the video almost had no correlation with the second one. I think, I don't know. I see it on the other side, yeah. It is an incredibly good concept to have at hand, and it is one of the considerations that almost anybody who tries to solve the problems of society end up seeing, because negating those who are on the lowest part, the possibility of getting out of the lowest part is something incredibly necessary. If you don't allow them to overcome that sadness that gets created from the side itself of being in such a place of pain, you're only going to get destroyed completely by the rest, by the masses who are observing all the things that you do, obviously. But I will simply, yeah, the video doesn't have any real content. The only thing that can be analyzed properly is Nietzsche himself. And what I said before, I think stands properly on its way. The problem is to see society made of leeches and good people. Everybody tries to be good. But if you don't show everybody how it is that they can be good, the problem itself of these conceptions gets created. But yeah, I mean, completely digestible, I think. And probably if whoever lacks that on their life sees this, can find some kind of orientation on their life, I would guess. But yeah, not that much more to add. I mean, yeah, Nietzsche is still somebody incredibly capable of doing it. The only problem was this video itself. I hate that video, man. What an incredibly bad put together video. What a terrible way to narrate a story like this. But yeah, I don't know. I think it was fine at the very least. Let's say 6 out of 10. A little bit below the average. But yeah, I mean, yeah, life lessons basically. Aside from the negative side of it, life lessons. So well, we might as well give this a closure. I didn't believe that we were going to spend like how much? An hour and 15 minutes almost on one simple video. So yeah, I guess we're done. I guess we're done so far. And well, at the very least, I didn't even believe I was going to stream. So also nice to see it, to see that it ended up happening. And well, I mean, yeah, not that much more to add. I guess we're going to try and give somebody a raid. Do we have the possibility of doing so? Let me check. Twitch, what's TV? Twitch, hello. Do you not want to crash? Yeah. Okay. I think yeah. It was nice. I guess the final conclusion is nice, but the rest of the video was kind of, I wouldn't say unnecessary for that conclusion, but rather unrelated to it. I don't know. I will. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't say anything negative. Simply to argument that probably there could have been different words to utilize. But yeah, it still was very fun. I mean, yeah, what I said before. Sometimes, not sometimes, what? Sometimes, yeah, sometimes. Most of the time, Nietzsche really doesn't have things that are unnecessary. The only real problem that exists with Nietzsche is the way in which things are worded might as well not be the best, because the negativity that surrounds out of the messages is truly there, let's say. So yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't say anything worse aside from this. But yeah, I guess with this we can simply, as I was trying to say, we can give this a closure, I guess. Yeah, very fine so far. Very fine. And well, I can't even say that much. Let us simply yeah, let us try to get out of here. Man, it was nice, the last part. The rest was a complete mess, my man. What a weird way to make a video. Let's say it like that, instead of insulting so much more. What a weird way to make a video. So well, we're going to simply give a raid to Digby Cat, who is doing art. Thanks for being here, thanks for watching, thanks for looking, thanks for watching the VOD, thanks for everything, as always. I hope this has anything behind it. In a sense, it was a complete mess. I have to accept that, but I don't know. I guess it was still interesting. I guess at the very least, the final 15 minutes of this were interesting. But yeah, aside from that, as always, as I was trying to say, thanks for being here, thanks for watching, for looking, for everything, for watching the world. And well, in this particular occasion, thanks to Ronspawn. And well, until next time, we're going now to take a rest, to hydrate, probably to take care of ourselves. Now we're leaving. We're to live big art, doing art, and yeah, nothing more to really add. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for everything, and remember to stay safe, because whenever it happens, it will happen that we are going to get back here. And until then, remember to stay safe. Now, Raid. Goodbye, everybody. Raid. My man. My incredible man. What a